It was just another Friday afternoon at Lincoln High. The bell had rung, kids were rushing out of class, and the energy on campus was high. Some were heading to after-school clubs, others to jobs or practice. But for one girl, the real test wasn't in the classroom. It was about to happen on the bus ride home. She was known around school as someone who kept to herself, but never backed down when things got unfair. She walked with quiet confidence, head held high, headphones on, always calm. Her backpack was heavy with books, her phone buzzing with messages from friends. She didn't start trouble, but she sure wouldn't let anyone walk all over her either. The bus was already packed by the time she stepped on. Laughter, music, and loud chatter filled the air. She made her way toward the middle where she always sat, near the window, same spot every day. She dropped her bag beside her, pulled out her phone, and leaned back, ready for the usual ride home. Then came the noise. A group of students pushed through the door, talking loud, laughing even louder. At the front was a girl most knew by sight, if not by name. Popular, confident, used to getting what she wanted. She scanned the bus, saw the few empty seats already taken, and frowned. Her eyes landed on the girl by the window. Without hesitation, she started walking down the aisle. A couple of students noticed and fell silent. Others glanced up, sensing something was about to go down. "You're in my seat," the popular girl said, standing over her. The girl looked up slowly, took one earbud out, and blinked. "Your seat?" "Yeah," the other girl replied, crossing her arms. "This is where I sit." The girl didn't raise her voice. She didn't move, just looked around at the dozens of other empty spots and said, "You're kidding, right?" "Nope," came the quick reply. "So, you can either move now or make this harder than it needs to be." A few students chuckled nervously. One guy in the back muttered, "Here we go again." The girl stayed calm. She looked up at the standing figure and said, "I was here first. If you wanted a seat, maybe you should have gotten on the bus earlier." That hit differently. The popular girl's smile faded. She leaned in a bit, lowering her voice but not her tone. "You really want to do this? On a bus full of people? You think you're tough enough?" The girl didn't flinch, didn't blink. Just sat there looking up like she wasn't scared at all. "I'm not trying to fight," she said. "But I'm not moving just because you say so. This isn't your seat. It's a school bus. There are rules, remember?" That last line caught some attention. A few students exchanged looks. Someone whispered, "She's not wrong." The tension grew. The driver, busy watching the road, didn't notice the rising heat in the back. But others did. Phones came out, not to text, to record. The popular girl smirked, clearly not used to being challenged. "You know what people say about girls like you, right?" she said, voice dripping with attitude. The girl raised an eyebrow. "What, that we don't back down?" "Yeah, I've heard that before." That got a soft laugh from someone nearby. The mood shifted slightly. Not everyone was on the side of the girl trying to take control. "Whatever," the popular girl snapped, straightening up. "You're making a mistake." The girl finally stood. Not to fight, not to yell, but to show she wouldn't be pushed around. "I'm not afraid of you," she said simply. "And I'm not giving up my seat just because you think you deserve it more than me." There was silence for a second. Then someone whispered, "Yes, ma'am," under their breath. The popular girl looked around, expecting support, but found fewer allies than she thought. She glared at the girl one last time, then stormed off to find another seat. The bus ride went on. People went back to chatting, listening to music, scrolling on their phones. But something had changed. From that moment on, the girl by the window wasn't just another student. She was someone who stood up for herself when it mattered. And, unbeknownst to her, that moment was about to change everything. The bus rolled on through the neighborhood streets, tires humming against the pavement. The moment had passed, but the energy in the air still felt charged. Some students were whispering about what had just happened. Others were watching the girl by the window like she'd done something bigger than just hold her ground. She sat back down slowly, slipping her earbud into her ear again. She didn't want to make a big deal out of it. That wasn't her style. but inside her heart was still pounding. Not from fear, from fire. That feeling when you know you did the right thing, even when it wasn't easy. Across the aisle, the popular girl was fuming. She'd found a seat, but not peace. Her friends tried to calm her down, but she kept glancing back toward the window. Every time she did, her jaw tightened a little more. "You just let her talk to you like that?" one of them asked. "She thinks she's tough," the girl snapped. "But I can go harder." Her eyes narrowed as she watched the girl listening to music like nothing had happened. That calmness? It burned. A few minutes later, the girl leaned forward and called out, loud enough for most of the bus to hear, "Y'all see this?" "She thinks she's too good to move. Thinks she's better than everyone else." The girl looked up again, tired now. She didn't respond at first, just took out her earbud and gave the other girl a long look. "I don't think I'm better than anyone," she said finally. "I just don't see why I should be treated worse." That line hit hard. Some students nodded, a couple even clapped softly. One guy near the front muttered, "Truth." The popular girl didn't like that reaction, not one bit. She got up again, walking back with a smirk that didn't reach her eyes. This time she didn't ask. She didn't pretend it was about the seat anymore. "You always act like this?" she asked, voice dripping with sarcasm. "Like you're so strong?" The girl stayed seated, didn't flinch, just tilted her head slightly like she was trying to understand where all this anger was coming from. "I act like me," she said. "You just don't like that I don't play games." That pushed a button. The popular girl leaned in close, lowering, her voice but not her tone. "You think people respect you for acting like this? You think they like you?" The girl didn't blink. "I don't need people to like me to know who I am." It was quiet after that. Even the driver glanced back, sensing things weren't calming down. He cleared his throat loudly but didn't say anything. He wasn't paid enough to get involved unless someone threw a punch. Then came the comment. Not a slap, not a shove, just words, sharp ones. "You know what your problem is?" the popular girl sneered. "You try too hard to be different. Like your hair isn't messy enough or your clothes aren't loud enough, so you have to act wild to feel seen." Silence dropped like a stone. The girl didn't move at first. Then she slowly stood up, not in rage, in power. "You think you can talk about how I look like it's a bad thing?" she asked, voice steady. "You think you can use my skin, my hair, my style as an insult?" The bus was completely quiet now. One student had their phone out, recording. Another was messaging someone, furiously. Eyes were locked on the two girls. "You can't take away what makes me proud," the girl continued, looking straight into the other girl's eyes. "And you sure as heck can't make me feel small just because you don't understand it." There was something in the way she spoke. Not angry, not scared. Just full of truth. Someone near the back whispered, "Yes." Another person gave a thumbs up. The popular girl didn't know what to do. She'd expected tears, maybe silence, definitely fear. But not this. Not pride. She stepped back, unsure. For the first time, she looked off balance. "So what now?" the girl asked, still standing. "You gonna keep going? Or are you starting to realize you picked the wrong person to mess with?" The popular girl didn't answer. She turned and walked away, faster than before. Not proud, not confident, just defeated. The girl sat back down, exhaled slowly, and put her earbud back in. The ride home went on like any other. The chatter started again. Someone played music quietly. But the vibe had changed, something had shifted, and unbeknownst to her, someone on the bus had captured every second of it on video. By Monday morning, the world would know what happened on that bus. The moment the school doors opened, it was like the whole building already knew what happened on the bus. Phones were buzzing, students were whispering. Some looked at her like she was a hero, others like she'd done something dangerous. She didn't know why everyone was staring. She hadn't said anything, hadn't posted anything. But then someone handed her their phone, showing a video of her standing up for herself. The whole thing, every second. And she realized someone had recorded it. And now the world could see. The video was everywhere. It had hundreds of thousands of views by first period. By lunchtime, it was over 1 million. People across the city, even the country, were watching. Some called her brave. Others tried to twist the story, saying she was being rude or aggressive. But most saw what really happened. A girl who stood her ground without losing her cool. At first, she felt exposed, like her private moment had been stolen and put on display. But as the messages started coming in, from strangers, students, even adults, she began to feel something else. Pride. People were thanking her. Young girls were saying they looked up to her. Some said they finally felt seen. Others told her they wished they had the courage to do the same when they were picked on. Her best friend walked up to her between classes and said, "You're kind of famous now." She laughed, but it didn't feel funny. This wasn't about fame. It was about respect, about not letting anyone make you feel less than you are. Then came the school response. By midday, a teacher pulled her aside and told her to report to the principal's office. Not in trouble, just to talk. The school had to address what happened, especially since it had gone viral. She walked down the quiet hallway, heart thumping, not because she was scared, but because she knew this wasn't just about her anymore. It was about how the school would handle things. Would they protect her, or would they try to silence her? Inside the office sat 2 vice principals, the school counselor, and the bus driver. He looked tired, like he'd been asked questions all morning. "Please have a seat," one of the vice principals said gently. She sat down slowly, hands folded in her lap. "We've seen the video," he continued. "We want to hear your side of the story." So she told them, calmly, honestly. She didn't exaggerate, didn't blame, just explained what happened, how she was sitting in her seat, how she was asked to move, how things turned tense, and how she chose to stand up for herself without raising her voice. When she finished, there was a pause. Then one of the vice principals nodded. "Thank you for telling us that," she said. "We appreciate how you handled yourself." That meant more than she expected. But then came the hard part. They had to speak with the other girl too. The one who started it. The one who made the comments. The one who thought she could walk onto a bus and demand control. Later that day, the school released a statement. They wouldn't name names, but they confirmed that the incident had taken place and that consequences were being given. The other girl was suspended for 3 days. She also had to attend a series of workshops on bullying, respect, and understanding different cultures. Some people said it was fair. Others said it was too harsh. But most agreed, it sent a message. This wasn't just about a seat on a bus. It was about respect, about dignity, about not letting anyone treat you like you don't matter. Still, not everyone was happy. There were rumors spreading online. Some parents of other students started talking on social media. A few defended the suspended girl, saying she was just having a bad day. Others accused the school of treating her unfairly. One parent even commented, "Why is this girl getting praised for being rude?" But others pushed back. Teachers shared the video in staff meetings. Counselors used it to start conversations about race, identity, and self-respect. Students organized a small group discussion during lunch about standing up to bullying and supporting each other. And through it all, she stayed grounded. She didn't let the attention change her. She still showed up to class early, still helped her friends study, still listened to music on her headphones while walking the halls. She just had more eyes on her now. One afternoon, a younger student approached her nervously. "I saw the video," the girl said softly. "I wish I could be like you." She smiled. "You don't have to be like me," she said. "You just have to be you. And if someone tries to make you feel small, remember, you don't have to let them." That stuck with the younger girl, and with others too. By the end of the week, something unexpected happened. A local youth empowerment group reached out. They wanted her to speak at an event about standing up for yourself and others. She wasn't sure at first. Public speaking wasn't her thing. But she thought about all the kids who needed to hear someone like her say, "You matter." so she agreed. That night she sat at home, scrolling through messages. Some were kind, some were cruel, but most were honest. People were seeing her not just as a girl on a bus, but as someone who represented strength, pride, and truth. She closed her laptop, leaned back in her chair, and took a deep breath. She didn't ask for any of this, but she wasn't going to run from it either, because sometimes life throws something big at you, not to break you, but to show you who you really are, and she was starting to understand exactly that. The buzz around the video didn't die down like most school drama usually did. If anything, it grew louder. By the second week after the incident, it wasn't just students talking. Teachers were bringing it up in class discussions, counselors were using it in workshops, and even local news stations had picked up the story. She still went to her classes, still sat in her usual seat at lunch, still listened to music on her headphones during breaks. But now every time she walked through the halls, people noticed her more. Some smiled, others stared, a few whispered behind their hands. It was hard not to feel the pressure. At first, she tried to ignore it. She told herself it would pass. That, soon enough, something else would come along and everyone would forget. But that didn't happen. If anything, things got harder. Some students started treating her differently. Not all of them, just a few. The ones who thought she was asking for attention. The ones who believed standing up for yourself meant you were being difficult. They called her names when she walked by. Thug. Troublemaker. Divisive. One girl even said, "You think you're better than us now?" She didn't respond. Just kept walking. But inside it hurt. She wasn't trying to be better than anyone. She was just trying to live her life without being pushed around. Why did that make people so mad? Even some of the teachers seemed different around her. One or two gave her longer looks when she entered the classroom. Another one corrected her more harshly than usual when she answered a question wrong. It wasn't open hostility, just subtle things. Like they were waiting for her to mess up. It made her feel like she had to be perfect just to be treated fairly. One afternoon, after a long day of whispers and side-eyes, she sat outside under the big oak tree near the back of the school. Her best friend joined her a few minutes later, dropping down beside her with a sigh. "You okay?" he asked. She shrugged. "I don't know anymore." He looked at her, really looked at her. "They getting to you?" She nodded slowly. "Not just the kids. Even some teachers seem, I don't know, different." He stayed quiet for a moment. Then he said, "You didn't start this. You just stood up for yourself. That's not a crime." "I know," she said, "but sometimes it feels like I'm being punished for it." He leaned back against the tree. "Maybe they're scared." Of what? That someone finally said no. That hit her harder than she expected. Was that it? Had she done something so simple, say no, that it made others uncomfortable because they never had? She thought about all the times she'd seen other students get pushed around and say nothing. All the times she'd almost said nothing too. Maybe she hadn't done anything special. Maybe she'd just done what needed to be done. And maybe that was why some people didn't like it. Later that week, things got worse. A group of students started a post online, not on public platforms, but in private groups where they thought no one would see. They talked about her like she was a problem, said she was causing division, said she should have just moved seats and avoided the whole thing. Someone even made a fake post pretending to be her, saying things she'd never say, just to make her look bad. When her best friend showed her the messages, she felt sick. "They're trying to make me look like the bad guy," she said quietly. "They're scared," he repeated, "because you stood up and they couldn't stop you." She wanted to believe that, but it was hard when everything felt like it was turning against her. Then came the support, not from the same people who had been whispering or staring, not from the ones spreading rumors, but from others, people she didn't expect. A local youth group reached out again, this time offering her a chance to speak at a bigger event. This one was in front of a real audience. Adults, students, community leaders. They wanted her to share her story. She hesitated. Public speaking wasn't her thing. She wasn't used to being the center of attention. But then she remembered the younger student who had approached her weeks ago. The one who said she wished she could be like her. She realized maybe this wasn't just about her anymore. Maybe this was about showing others that it was okay to stand up, that it was okay to be proud of who you are, that it was okay to say no when something wasn't right. So she agreed. That night, she sat at home with her notebook open, trying to write something real, not something polished, not something dramatic, just something honest. She wrote about how it felt to be judged for standing up, how hard it was to keep going when people tried to twist your words, and how, despite everything, she still believed in doing the right thing. She also wrote about something else, the people who supported her, the ones who sent kind messages, the ones who stood beside her in the hallway, the ones who said, "We see you." That helped. More than she expected. By the time the event came, she was nervous, but not scared. As she stepped onto the stage, looked out at the crowd and took a deep breath, she knew one thing: she wasn't alone, and that made all the difference. Things didn't go back to normal after the event. Not really. She still went to school every day, still sat in the same seat on the bus when she could, still kept her headphones on during breaks. But everything felt different now. The video had changed things, not just for her but for everyone around her. Some students who used to ignore her started saying hi in the hallway. A few even asked if they could help spread her message. Teachers began checking in more often, asking how she was doing, not just about schoolwork, but about how she felt. It was strange having adults care so much, but she appreciated it. Still, not everything was easy. There were days when the pressure got heavy, when the messages online became too much, when people tried to twist her words or question her intentions. Some said she was looking for attention. Others claimed she was making things worse. It hurt, not because she believed them, but because it reminded her that not everyone would understand what she went through. One afternoon, after a long week of whispers and side eyes, she sat outside by herself again. The same tree, the same quiet spot. She pulled out her phone and scrolled through some of the comments people had left under her latest interview. Most were kind. A few weren't. She sighed and leaned back against the bark, closing her eyes. That's when someone sat down beside her. It wasn't her best friend this time. It was someone else, an older student she barely knew. Quiet. Always kept to themselves. "I saw your talk," the girl said softly. "You were really brave." She opened her eyes and looked over. "Thanks. I mean it," the girl continued. "I know people say stuff behind your back, but I think you did something important." She smiled slightly. "It doesn't always feel like it." "It is," the girl insisted, "because now people are talking. About respect, about standing up for yourself, about treating others better." That stuck with her. Maybe she was making a difference, even if it didn't always feel like it. Later that week, she met with the school counselor for the first time since everything happened. They sat in the small, quiet office, sunlight coming through the blinds. The counselor was calm, kind, not pushy, not fake. "So," she began gently, "how have you been feeling lately?" She thought for a moment, then answered honestly, "Tired." The counselor nodded like she understood. "It's a lot to carry." "Yeah," she admitted. "Sometimes I wonder if it was worth it." "What makes you say that?" She hesitated before speaking. "Because sometimes it feels like I'm being punished for standing up for myself, like I did the right thing, but I'm the one paying the price." "That's not fair," the counselor said quietly, "and you're allowed to feel that." They talked for almost an hour, about the pressure, about the rumors, about how hard it was to be seen as someone strong all the time, how she wanted to just be a regular student again. Not a symbol, not a story. But then the counselor said something that stayed with her. "You don't have to be strong all the time," she said. "You can be tired. You can be scared. You can be unsure. That doesn't make you weak, it makes you human. That hit deep. She hadn't realized how much she'd been trying to hold everything together, trying to prove that she was okay, that she was fine, that nothing had broken her. But maybe it was okay to admit that it had. Maybe healing didn't mean forgetting. Maybe it meant learning how to carry it differently. A few days later, she got a message from the school board. They had seen the impact her story had made, not just inside the school, but across the district. They wanted to use what happened as part of a new program aimed at preventing bullying and promoting respect among students. They asked if she would be willing to help shape it. At first, she wasn't sure. She didn't see herself as a leader, didn't think she had the words to change anything bigger than her own life. But then she remembered the younger student who had told her she wished she could be like her. Remembered the girl who sat beside her under the tree. Remembered the counselor's words. So she agreed. Over the next few weeks, she met with teachers, counselors, and other students to talk about what needed to change. They discussed ways to support kids who were being bullied, ways to teach students about respect, identity, and empathy. She helped create a peer mentorship group called Stand Tall, a safe space where students could talk about their experiences, share their stories, and learn how to support each other. It wasn't perfect. Not everyone showed up at first. Some were skeptical. Some still didn't get why it mattered. But slowly, things started to shift. More students joined. More conversations happened. Teachers started bringing up the topic in class. Even the principal shared a short message on the morning announcements about treating others with kindness and respect. It wasn't a big change, but it was something. And for the first time in a while, she felt like she was moving forward. Not because the world had suddenly become perfect. Not because everyone liked her now, but because she was starting to believe in herself again. She wasn't just the girl on the bus anymore. She was someone who stood up when it mattered, someone who learned how to heal when it hurt, and someone who was ready to keep going. Not for the attention, not for the praise, but because she knew there were others out there who needed to hear that it was okay to stand tall, even when the world tried to make you feel small. Not fast enough to forget, not slow enough to stop growing. Months rolled by, and life went on like it always did. The school year kept moving. Teachers gave tests, students graduated. New faces came in, old drama faded into memory. But some things didn't go away. The Stand Tall group was still meeting every Friday after lunch. More students showed up now. Some just to listen, others to share their own stories. It had become more than a club. It was a space where people felt seen, heard, and supported. She wasn't the loudest one there anymore. She didn't need to be. Others had found their voices too. That made her smile. One day she sat outside with her best friend, watching a group of younger students walk past. They were talking about the program. "I heard they're starting it at other schools too," he said, tossing a small rock across the grass. She looked up, surprised. "For real?" He nodded. "Yeah, some teachers from another high school reached out. Said they wanted to start something like Stand Tall." She smiled, proud but quiet. Not in a showy way, just in a deep, warm kind of way that settled in her chest. That's what she had wanted all along. Not fame, not attention, just change. And somehow, even though she never asked for it, she had helped make that happen. Graduation came sooner than expected. She stood in line with the rest of her class, wearing the same black robe and cap as everyone else. Her family was in the crowd. So were her friends. And so was the school counselor who had listened when she couldn't hold it all in anymore. When her name was called, she walked across the stage with her head high, got her diploma, and stepped off the other side knowing she had earned it. Later, that night, sitting under the stars at the after-party, her best friend nudged her. "You know," he said, "you changed this place." She laughed softly. "I don't know about that." "No, really," he insisted. "Before you stood up, on that bus, nobody talked about stuff like that. Now we have programs, we have conversations, people actually care." She thought about it for a second, about how much had changed, not just in the school, but in her. She used to think being strong meant never showing weakness, never backing down, never letting anyone see you hurt. Now she knew better. Being strong also meant asking for help when you needed it. It meant speaking up, even when your voice shook. It meant healing when things left scars. And most of all, it meant using your story to help others find theirs. She packed for college slowly. It wasn't just clothes and books she was bringing with her. It was everything she'd learned, everything she'd been through, every lesson she had picked up along the way. She folded up her old hoodie, the one she wore on the bus that day. Not because it reminded her of pain, but because it reminded her of power. She had gone through fire and come out stronger. On move-in day, she arrived at her new campus with her backpack slung over one shoulder and a box in her arms. The air was full of energy. New students everywhere, music playing, parents helping unload cars, smiles all around. She found her dorm room, met her roommate, and started setting up her space. Posters on the wall, headphones on the desk, a small notebook labeled Future Ideas tucked into her drawer. That night, she sat on her bed and opened her laptop. She typed a few lines into a blank document. They told me I was making a mistake, that I should have moved seats, should have stayed quiet, should have let it go. But I didn't. And I'm glad I didn't. Because sometimes standing your ground isn't about fighting. It's about remembering who you are, and no one can take that away from you. She closed the laptop and leaned back. She didn't know what the next few years would bring. Didn't know if she'd ever speak on big stages again. Didn't know if people would remember her name. But she knew one thing. She had done something real. She had faced fear, pressure, and judgment, and still chose to stand tall. And that mattered. A few weeks later, she was waiting for the shuttle bus that would take her to class. She looked around at the new faces, the new buildings, the new energy. Then the bus pulled up. She stepped on, scanned the rows of seats, and saw an open window seat near the back. She smiled slightly. Same spot. Different world. She dropped her bag. Beside her sat down and leaned against the cool glass. The ride began, and this time she didn't have to fight for her seat. Because now she knew. She already belonged.